Hey, I'm Isabel Bercaw, and when I was 12 years old, I founded a multi-million-dollar bath and body products company called the Bomb Bath. After 5 years of building my own brand, I've discovered a passion for helping young and innovative entrepreneurs tell their stories. Hopefully, you'll be inspired by the guests here on Build-A-Biz and maybe even motivated to start a business of your own. Let's get into it.
This is Build-A-Biz with Isabel Bercaw.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Build-A-Biz. I'm Isabel Bercaw, your host, and today joining me is Caitlyn Lubas, the 23-year-old globetrotter who is here to tell us a little bit about her book that she wrote, as well as some of her travel adventures. Caitlyn, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to get into all the details about world travels at a young age.
Yeah, totally. So you traveled a lot when you were in college through a study abroad program, you say?
Yes, so I went to NYU, or New York University, and they are pretty well known for being the number one school for sending people abroad. I think it's like almost half of all NYU students spend some sort of experience abroad, whether it's a winter break or a spring break or even a full semester abroad. So I was able to do 2 full semesters abroad, one in Florence and one in Singapore, and then was also able to do a couple shorter term immersions over winter break in Abu Dhabi and Tel Aviv, and then also got to do some spring break trips with classes and professors in both Peru and Ghana. So quite a lot of travel, all kind of wrapped up in my college education, which was awesome.
That's crazy. So how would you say that your travels contributed to your college education?
Completely supplemented, but also even surpassed the things that I was learning in the classroom, I would say. I really think I came to realize that travel teaches you so much more than you could ever learn from a textbook or from a professor or for just being in your hometown. One of the reasons why I wanted to travel so much was because I was studying global business as my major in school. So, by the nature of that degree program, I was encouraged to understand how businesses around the world kind of interact with different customers and deal with different cultural contexts. But even more importantly, I was just interested in understanding really how do societies differ in various parts of the world? How do people grow up and get raised and develop values that are different in various parts of the world? And I think all of that can really be understood much better, obviously, through experiencing it firsthand rather than kind of reading about it in a textbook or in a case study. So actually getting out there and seeing the world was the best way for me to learn global business, but it also just ended up being the best way for me to kind of learn and grow as a person, even well beyond the confines of my major.
Yeah, that's so cool. I have so many questions for you, but I want to start by just kind of drawing a parallel between what you said about really learning through experience and what I've learned through experiencing owning my own business. So, if you listen to the show, there's a little introduction. I talk about the fact that I have a bath and body products company that I started with my sister, and through that, I discovered a love of talking to other entrepreneurial and innovative people. And I have to completely agree with what you're saying about actually experiencing something, because like case studies are great, and books are great, and even a radio show meant to inspire people is great. But I really think the best way that you can learn how to do something is by doing it yourself. And I feel like I've always learned that way, and I love that you find that to be true in travel as well.
Yeah, definitely. I completely resonate. Even in what you're saying about building a business, definitely learning by making mistakes, learning by actually doing things is way better than just spending super long kind of preparing and preparing and preparing. Just get out there and do it. Get out there and explore, and you'll learn so much just by trial and error and doing things firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that I've personally made some like pretty hilarious mistakes throughout owning my own business in my career. Would you be willing to maybe share a little story about a silly mistake that you made while you were traveling, if you have one in your head?
Oh, for sure. There's been so many. I think travel's really interesting because it definitely pushes you to your limits in a lot of different ways. Like, I think of travel as one, of course, it's an amazing way to see a new place and kind of experience things you've never done before. But at the same time as all these amazing things, you're also kind of under every constraint possible. Like you're under a time constraint, you're under a budget constraint, you only have a certain amount of like energy to do things in the few days that you're traveling or however long you're traveling. And I think all of that can create a lot of stress at times too. So if like one thing goes wrong, it tends to really just like elevate the stress of the entire situation. So I've definitely made a lot of mistakes where like maybe we mistimed kind of arriving at the bus station at the right time, or maybe we like overestimated how much energy we would have and we said, oh yeah, it'd be fine if we just take one overnight bus, then don't sleep at all, and then take another overnight bus the second day, and then we end up basically just wasting all of our time in a new city because we had overestimated how much energy we had. Or sometimes I've definitely had examples too where like in Vietnam, my friend and I wanted to save as much money as we could on transportation. So instead of kind of doing what was probably a little more safe and a little more, I would say, having common sense, we decided to go for the cheaper option and rented motorbikes, having never drove a motorbike before. And I ended up getting into a motorbike accident and needing stitches. So that was definitely a big mistake that I don't think was worth the $8 of the motorbike rental by any means. But you live and you learn, and now it's a story to tell.
Yeah, exactly. You got to save your $8, except I don't really want to know how much the stitches cost, but at least you have that story now, like you said.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely a word of caution to other future travelers of don't go too far beyond your limits. Like do what feels safe.
Yeah, and I love that you're sharing that advice with everybody. And I would love if you would maybe share some advice in a little bit here about some other things that you've learned during travels. But I also wanted to ask you about something that you said. You said there's a lot of stress in travel, and now my mind is just going to the place where I'm wondering, like, what for you makes travel worth the stress that you go through to get to your destination? Is it the growth? Is it like a view maybe? Is it like a tangible thing? What is it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for me, I just get super excited about the prospect of experiencing something that I've never experienced before and perhaps may never experience again. I think that's just a crazy concept that obviously in your daily life, most people get into some sort of routine where generally every day looks pretty much the same. You kind of go to the same places, eat the same types of things, see the same types of people. But when you travel, you willingly kind of reject that ordinary and reject that routine and put yourself into a completely new place with new people, new foods, new sights, new smells, new sounds. And I think getting to see like a viewpoint for the first time, getting to try a new food for the first time, getting to hear a foreign language for the first time, I think all of that is so endlessly exciting to me. I wouldn't trade that feeling of kind of experiencing something new for the first time for anything. And I think it makes all the stress very well worth it because it just kind of makes you feel like you are getting more out of life rather than doing the same things over and over. You're just constantly seeing new things and kind of understanding more of the human experience, understanding more of the world, and having a fuller life overall through travel, I think.
Yeah, totally. That kind of even answers my questions. Like, what are some of the lessons that you've learned during traveling? It's just a couple things I'm picking out from what you're saying is um, you really enjoy travel because you get to have new experiences. And I think that that's cool because when I'm thinking about new experiences, sometimes I just think about the really basic ones that everybody may hope to experience during their lifetime and maybe are lucky enough to experience, like getting married if you want to do that, or
Mhm.
even just experiencing your first day of high school. All that is so exciting, and that's stuff that I think that people really do like look forward to an extent. But it's cool because with travel, I'm kind of noticing you telling these really fun stories, and there's no way that you could have seen that coming. So it's almost like you mentioned like the excitement of the unknown. It's like a double surprise. You don't know what you're going to do, and you don't know what you're going to learn from it, which I think can be really scary, but it can also be super duper exciting. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to mention about how you've personally grown, and or any other lessons that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. I think I love the way that you phrase that also, like the double surprise of kind of not knowing what you're going to see and not knowing what you're going to learn. That is exactly how I feel. Like, not only am I excited by all the amazing adventures you can have, but also just really excited about the personal growth that can come of all of that. Like I think one great example of kind of that double surprise, last year I went to Antarctica, which is a place that some people don't even realize you can travel to, but you definitely can. You can get pretty up close and personal with penguins and whales and seals, and it is an incredible journey to undertake. But one of the most unique things I did on that trip was I actually got to go camping outside, like without a tent, just in a sleeping bag in the snow in Antarctica. And not only was that experience obviously something I had never done before and probably will never get to do again, but I was really surprised by what I was able to learn from it. And kind of just, it's a great example of not only are humans able to persevere through so much and kind of do things that you wouldn't even think are humanly possible, but it really teaches you to appreciate and really value nature so much more by having seen a place like Antarctica that is so pristine and natural and untouched. It's just kind of, I just distinctly remember being like in this sleeping bag in the middle of the snow, staring up at the sky that was all white because in January in Antarctica, there's a midnight sun, so there's never ever darkness. And just thinking to myself as I was trying to fall asleep, like, wow, this is the most remote, the most in the middle of nowhere, the most silent kind of place and just peacefulness that I will ever experience. And something like that is so inspiring to kind of carry forth with you and always refer back to that moment saying, these are the things I can experience when I travel. And also as a lesson, kind of this is what I should have as a North Star to like protect when I try to make kind of eco-friendly decisions and live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Absolutely. I'm getting both chills thinking about Antarctica and also that sentence that you just told us.
All right, so Caitlyn, we're actually going to take a really quick music break, but then when we return from the break, we can continue to talk about your adventures. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Build-A-Biz. If you're just joining me here now, my name is Isabel Bercaw, and I'm interviewing the innovative traveler, Miss Caitlyn Lubas, and she was just telling us about how she went to Antarctica. Caitlyn, are there any other places that come to mind when I ask you pretty quickly, which places are your favorite countries in the world of the 79 countries you've been to?
Choosing a favorite is definitely hard, but I would say I absolutely love Argentina. I think it's one of the countries that really just has a little bit of everything. Whether you like exploring a new city and learning about a culture, you can do that in Buenos Aires. You can also go up north to the border of Argentina and Brazil and see the Iguazu waterfalls, which are some of the biggest waterfalls in the world. You can go down south to Patagonia and do some amazing hiking. It's pretty much the hiking capital of the world. I just think Argentina has a little bit of everything, so it's really great for adventure seekers, especially. But in addition, I think one of the countries I really enjoyed, also for the nature that I definitely want to get back to as soon as possible, would be Australia. I think it's nice because it's not too far out of most people's comfort zone since they do speak English, and at least for Americans, it's not too much of a culture shock to go there, but you still do get a little bit of a unique version of the English language, a unique version of kind of Western culture, and just all the animals that are in Australia. I found so fascinating to see all like things like kangaroos and cassowaries and like just little things that don't exist in other parts of the world because Australia is so remote and kind of developed on its own. Obviously, you've also got the Great Barrier Reef, you've got the outback, there's just so much to explore. I think for anyone like me who loves the outdoors and kind of appreciating unique parts of the world and nature, Australia's got to be on your list.
I love that. That's so cool. And it's funny that you talk about the animals too, because my roommate's from Australia and she told me I had no idea that there were no squirrels in Australia. So I thought that was really funny. I was like, how are there no squirrels in Australia? Because I'm in New York City right now and there are squirrels and pigeons everywhere. So that's it's just little things that you wouldn't think about, the double surprise again.
Hmm.
So do you have a home base right now, or are you just constantly on the move?
As of the past few months, I don't have any home base at all, not paying rent anywhere in particular. Obviously, I do have some great friends in a couple key cities around the country. Like I would say the places I consider my home base in the US are kind of mostly New York, somewhat San Francisco, and somewhat LA. I think some of my closest friends from whether it's I grew up in New Jersey, so I have a lot of friends who moved to New York, but also went to school in New York, so I have a lot of friends there. But then also spent time earlier this year living in San Diego for a few months, San Francisco for a few months, and LA for a bit. So I've been able to kind of build up a little network of people that will thankfully let me kind of crash on their couch for free when I'm back in town. But other than that, I mostly have been 100% on the road, like 100% of the time I'm traveling or exploring. I'm actually planning to have a little bit of downtime next month just because being on the road constantly definitely does get a bit draining, not only on your energy, but sometimes on your wallet. But it is definitely nice being in a state of constant change. I think it's not for everyone for sure, but if you're the type of person who is energized by new people, energized by new places, rather than exhausted by those things, I think a nomadic lifestyle is definitely something that's kind of coming into vogue and becoming more popular and just becoming more feasible these days, especially with so many companies allowing people to work remotely or so many entrepreneurs being able to work from anywhere. It's really a great path to consider if you feel like traveling and experiencing new things all the time is the life for you.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like those experiences can also be relative as well. So, even if you just go somewhere new in your own town, that could maybe be the travel that you're looking for, just because so many people do have those time constraints and maybe also those financial constraints. Can you give anybody any tips for maybe being frugal while they travel or just finding any kind of travel opportunities that would maybe allow them to see the world at a lower cost?
For sure. So most of my travels happened during college, and although I definitely was working many jobs and kind of hustling and making money, I was still trying to save as much money as possible. So the out of the 70 countries and all seven continents that I visited during the span of 3 years in college, most of that was done on as little of a budget as possible. I would say the best tips for kind of budget travel is do your research. I think a lot of us tend to just go to the things that might seem easiest. And if you really want to stretch your dollars as much as possible, I think doing the research into kind of what are the alternatives to staying in a fancy hotel? Like, could you stay in a hostel? Could you share a room with a local? Could you perhaps do something like couch surfing or doing a workaway program? Like, workaway is a program where you can live with a local and kind of do some sort of work for them or their small business during the week. And then you'll get free accommodations, sometimes free meals and transportation included. So that's a great alternative if you just want to experience living somewhere else. And basically, all you have to do is get yourself there, whether it's a different part of your own country or a foreign country. You can also do a lot of things to lessen your expenses when you are exploring a new city. Like one of my favorite little budget travel tips is if you get to a new city, whether it's somewhere within your home country that's just a new city or a new city all the way in Europe or Asia, one of my favorite things to do is just Google the words like free walking tour plus your language, which for me would be English, and you'll be surprised. Like there are somehow these amazing organizations that organize free walking tours that are led by locals in pretty much every city I've ever searched for. These happen to exist. And it's awesome because not only do you get to spend a few hours with an actual local walking you around their town and showing you all their favorite things, giving you a little bit of the history. You can also ask them even like all of your own personal questions just about whatever you're particularly curious about, whether it's art or music or culture, or even just personal recommendations like, hey, local tour guide, where should I eat for dinner tonight? I think all of that is such an amazing resource, and you can usually get the best kind of authentic, hidden gem type of recommendations that will save you a lot of money if you talk to an actual local rather than doing the things that are promoted on like travel blogs or TripAdvisor, because those tend to all be the more touristy things that they're trying to make some money off of the tourists.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really cool. I've done a little bit of traveling, not as much as you, but I can definitely attest to what you're saying about, just talking to the locals. And I think also some local people appreciate it. I know when I was in Minneapolis, if anyone asked me for directions, I always got excited to just listen to what their plans were because it made me excited to just even think about the prospect of having a new experience again. So that's super cool.
So, Caitlyn, I know that you've chronicled many of your adventures in your book, You Are Where You Go. So I was wondering if you could tell us what that title means to you, and then also give us a little summary of the book.
Yeah, so my book is called You Are Where You Go, which is kind of a traveler's take on you are what you eat, which is, that classic saying that your parents always tell you, like, watch what you intake to your body because you will become a product of whatever food you put into your body. I kind of ran with that idea and really want to encourage people to think of travel in a similar way of kind of all the places that you choose to go to really help form who you are as a person. So the whole idea of the book is each chapter is a story from a specific place that I've been to, whether it's Antarctica or Argentina or doing a safari throughout Africa or visiting Laos and Japan and all these places around the world that have each taught me some sort of key lesson about kind of what does it mean to travel there? What does it mean to kind of reflect on that travel experience, and what has that travel experience taught me, and how has that basically helped me make better decisions moving forward? How has it shaped my perspectives? All of that is kind of packaged into these great little short stories that I think anyone who travels a lot will appreciate them and will be able to reflect on their own travel experience. But even if you've never really traveled before and you're just really curious about what it's like to travel, I'm hoping that the book can basically be a way for people who are curious about travel to experience what it's like and get some of those lessons from traveling without even having to leave, let's say, like their couch or their bedroom. So that would be my quick little summary of what you could expect to learn from the book. And it is coming out on November 23rd, so very soon. I did a pre-sale about a month ago, and over 250 people pre-ordered the book, which is super exciting.
That is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think I need to get my hands on one of these books. Where can I pre-order?
If you're interested in pre-ordering or just finding out more about the book, you can go to youarewhereyougo.com. It's my website for the book. And you can also, if you're interested in kind of seeing the behind the scenes of the book, I have an Instagram account where I post updates about the life of an author at the age of 23. So that would be at youarewhereyougo on Instagram.
All right, well, Caitlyn, thank you so much for joining me here today on Build-A-Biz. Unfortunately, this is all the time left, but all the listeners should definitely go follow Caitlyn on Instagram to stay updated on her adventures and where they can get a book. And also, please be sure to check out this episode if you missed the beginning on the Build-A-Bear YouTube channel, where you'll find a Build-A-Bear radio playlist. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Isabel.Bercaw, where I will be posting updates on the next guests on Build-A-Biz. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.